Today we're looking at number 8 in our series on making friends for God. This one's entitled Ministering Like Jesus, and we've referred to the Sermon on the Mount as our very first text, actually just verses 13 and 14. But I want to make it a little bit bigger than all of that, because as we think about ministering like Jesus, Matthew 5, 6 and 7, that's the great manifesto, if you like, of Jesus and his ministry, his declaration of what it was supposed to be like and what he came to do. He had the people sent down there and he began teaching them, and then we have the Beatitudes. Blessed are those who recognize that they are spiritually poor. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are those who are kind. Blessed are those whose greatest desire is to do what's right, and so on. He begins with a blessing. And I like that whole approach, that he is addressing these people not with words of condemnation, not saying what terrible sinners they are, but blessing them and encouraging to think of the positive values and virtues that he enshrines, that he's all about, you might say. And then those verses that we are referred to in our study. You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt becomes tasteless, how can you make it salty again? It's good for nothing, so it's thrown out and trodden down. You are the light of the world. A city built on a hill can't be hidden. You are the light of the world. You are the salt of the earth. And when we look at ourselves, we say, really, Jesus? Is that what you think about us? Well, it's what we're supposed to be. Much of what we do doesn't seem to reflect that, to be the light of the world that attracts people to come in, and the salt that makes everything flavorful. If you've ever had to eat a salt-free diet, you know what I'm talking about. It's a bland, tasteless experience, and food just isn't really worth it anymore. And that's why he refers to that. But he also points out that salt, if it became tasteless, you would throw it out because you would be worthless. You wouldn't be using it for anything else. It goes on to explain about this light. Nobody puts a light under a bucket. You light it and put it under a bucket? No, you put it on a lampstand and make sure it provides light to everybody in the house. In the same way, you should let your light shine before everyone so that they can see the good things you do and praise your Heavenly Father. What a great way of describing what it's like. Make sure that everybody can see your light, and make sure that light isn't pointing to you. As it says at the end there, praise your Heavenly Father, because that's where you're directing attention to, not to yourself, but to our Heavenly Father. As we think about ministry like Jesus, we have to start thinking about changing the way that we operate, our attitudes to other people. Because Jesus always had time for other people. He cared about them more than he cared about himself, because God's whole universe is based on thinking of the other. And that's why the devil's rebellion, which was all about me, I will make myself like the Most High. I will sit enthroned on the Mount of Assembly. I will do this, I will do that. Taking power for himself, but none of the responsibility. He didn't care about anybody else. That's why that was so tragic and dangerous and so undermining of what God was trying to do in his creation. So as we think about changing the way that we think in terms of, okay, what does the other person need here? It's not about me witnessing and ministering. It's about what do they need? How can I help them? All too often I think that we're giving things that they don't need, or we're answering questions that they're not asking. As we do our evangelism, we have everything marked out. We have this kind of one-size-fits-all mentality. We get everybody to come into the meeting and we tell them all these different things. Well, and sometimes we get some results, and that's good. But if you look at the way that Jesus operated, and Ellen White reminds us that the only effective way is to use Christ's methods. He talked to the people where they were about what was interesting and of importance to them, what their concerns were. He prompted their curiosity. He invited their questions. And most of all, he answered, revealing healing, salvation in himself. Now, we don't have that, but we can point to where people can find that. And that's how we minister like Jesus, telling people where to go to find the answers, the healing, and the hope that we all truly need.